"We don't serve your kind here." The convenience store clerk spits at the weathered 52-year-old man in worn jeans and a faded jacket. Marcus Thompson stands frozen as other customers stare and whisper, unaware that the Purple Heart citation folded in his wallet bears the signature of a 4-star general who once called him the bravest soldier he'd ever commanded. What happens next will restore your faith in justice. But first, hit that subscribe button if you believe every veteran deserves respect. And drop a comment telling us about a veteran who changed your life. Now, let me tell Marcus's incredible story. Marcus Thompson just wanted to buy a bottle of water and some aspirin. His old truck had broken down 3 blocks away, and the summer heat was making his war injuries ache worse than usual. The small convenience store seemed like his only option in this unfamiliar neighborhood. But the young clerk behind the counter, barely 20 with slick-back hair and a smug expression, looked Marcus up and down with disgust. The man's clothes were simple but clean faded jeans, a plain t-shirt, and an old military surplus jacket he'd worn for years. To the clerk, Marcus looked like trouble. "We don't serve your kind here," the clerk repeated louder, making sure everyone in the store could hear. "You homeless people need to find somewhere else to beg for handouts." Marcus felt his face burn with shame. "I'm not homeless," he said quietly. "I just need water and aspirin. My truck broke down." The clerk crossed his arms and smirked. "Right, and I'm sure you've got money to pay for it too. Let me guess, you want to pay with food stamps or ask for a veteran discount." The way he said veteran made it sound like a dirty word. Several customers had stopped shopping to watch the scene unfold. An elderly woman clutched her purse tighter. A mother pulled her young son closer to her side. 2 teenagers pointed and whispered to each other, one of them quietly recording with his phone. Marcus reached for his wallet, his hands slightly shaking from a combination of anger and the lingering effects of an old injury. "Look, I have money. I can pay." The clerk laughed harshly. "Oh, now you've got money. Probably stolen or begged for. I don't want your dirty cash in my register." That's when Marcus noticed the small American flag sticker on the counter, right next to a sign that read, "Support our troops." The irony wasn't lost on him. This kid was probably born after Marcus had already served 2 tours overseas. "Sir, I served this country for 22 years, Marcus said, his voice still controlled but with an edge. "I'm not asking for charity. I'm asking to buy 2 items with my own money." The clerk's eyes narrowed. "Oh, here we go with the sob story. Every bum on the street claims to be a veteran these days. If you're such a hero, where's your uniform? Where are your medals?" Marcus felt something break inside his chest. He'd heard this before, too many times. Veterans who didn't fit the Hollywood image were often treated like frauds or failures. His uniform was at home in a closet, and his medals were in a box he rarely opened because the memories attached to them were too painful. The store fell completely silent. Even the teenagers stopped whispering. The tension was thick enough to cut. The clerk continued his verbal assault. "You know what? I'm sick of people like you using your service as an excuse to get handouts. My tax dollars probably pay for your food stamps and your disability checks. Get a job like the rest of us." Marcus' single quotes ass jaw tightened. The words hit harder than any physical blow he'd taken in combat. But before he could respond, the front door chimed and someone else entered the store. "What seems to be the problem here?" The voice was calm but carried unmistakable authority. Everyone turned to see a well-dressed man in his 60s, silver-haired and wearing a crisp polo shirt. He moved with the kind of confidence that comes from decades of leadership. The clerk, sensing an opportunity to justify his behavior to another customer, launched into his explanation. "This guy's trying to scam me, claiming he's some kind of war hero. I'm just protecting my business from these freeloaders." The newcomer walked closer, his eyes never leaving Marcus's face. Something in his expression was changing, like puzzle pieces clicking into place. "Marcus Thompson," the silver-haired man said quietly. "Staff Sergeant Marcus Thompson, 3rd Infantry Division." Marcus's eyes widened in shock. The voice, the face older now, but unmistakable. "Sir." The clerk looked confused. As the dynamic in the room shifted completely, the well-dressed man stepped forward, and Marcus could now clearly see what he'd missed before. The small lapel pin, the way he carried himself, the unmistakable bearing of a career military officer. "Son," the man said to the clerk, his voice like steel wrapped in velvet. "Do you have any idea who you're talking to?" Look, old man, the clerk shot back, not reading the room at all. I don't care who he claims to be. This is my store, and I decide who gets served. The silver-haired man pulled out his wallet and slowly, deliberately, placed a business card on the counter. The clerk picked it up, and the color drained from his face as he read it. General William Morrison, United States Army, retired. The store went dead silent. You could hear the hum of the refrigerators and the distant traffic outside. Every customer was now openly staring. General Morrison turned back to Marcus, and his stern expression softened. It's been too long, Sergeant Thompson, though I seem to remember you making it all the way to Staff Sergeant before you left us. Marcus stood straighter, old habits returning despite his civilian clothes. Yes, sir, Staff Sergeant. The general looked around the store, taking in the scene, the customers, the nervous clerk. Then he spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you about this man. Staff Sergeant Marcus Thompson served our country for 22 years. He did 3 tours in Iraq and 2 in Afghanistan. He's been awarded the Purple Heart, the Bronze Star with V device for valor, and the Combat Infantry Badge. The clerk's hands were visibly shaking now. The teenagers had stopped recording and were listening intently. The elderly woman had let go of her purse, and the mother was explaining quietly to her son what was happening. General Morrison continued, "But those decorations don't tell the real story. This man saved my life and the lives of 12 other soldiers when our convoy was ambushed outside Fallujah in 2005. He carried 3 wounded men to safety under heavy fire, then went back twice more to get the rest." Marcus felt his throat tighten. He remembered that day too well. The heat, the smoke, the screaming, the weight of his fellow soldiers as he dragged them to cover. "I recommended him for the Medal of Honor," the general said, his voice carrying through the silent store. "But Marcus wouldn't accept it. He said he was just doing his job, that any soldier would have done the same. That's the kind of man you just insulted, and refused to serve." The clerk looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. I didn't know, ... Of course you didn't know," the general replied sharply, "because you judged this American hero by his clothes instead of his character. You saw a man down on his luck and decided he was worthless." General Morrison walked over to the shelf, picked up a bottle of water and a bottle of aspirin, and placed them on the counter. Then he pulled out a $50 bill and set it down. "Ring these up," he ordered, "and keep the change as a tip for the lesson you just learned." The clerk fumbled with the register, his hands shaking so badly he could barely scan the items. He's not. I mean, there's no charge. Please. No, the general said firmly. Staff Sergeant Thompson came in here to make a purchase with his own money. He will pay for what he needs, and you will treat him with the respect he deserves. As the transaction completed, other customers began to approach. The elderly woman came first, tears in her eyes. She walked up to Marcus and simply said, "Thank you for your service, young man. My husband served in Vietnam. I know what it costs." One by one, other customers approached. The mother brought her young son over to shake Marcus's hand. "Thank you for protecting us," the boy said in a small voice that carried huge meaning. Even the teenagers came over, embarrassed by their earlier behavior. One of them deleted the video he'd been recording. "We're sorry, Mr. We didn't know." "Thank you." General Morrison watched this unfold with satisfaction, then turned back to the clerk, who was standing frozen behind the counter. "Son, what's your name?" "Tyler, sir. Tyler Williams." "Tyler, I want you to understand something. This man and thousands like him are the reason you can stand in this store, in this country, and make your own choices about your life. They fought so you could have the freedom to be ignorant, but they didn't fight so you could be cruel." The general's voice softened slightly. "I can see you're young, and young people make mistakes. The question is whether you learn from them or repeat them." Tyler nodded frantically. "Yes, sir. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Mr. Thompson. I was completely wrong." Marcus looked at the young man and saw something in his eyes. Genuine regret, not just fear of consequences. "Sometimes that's all it takes," he said quietly. "We all make mistakes. What matters is what we do next." General Morrison smiled at that response. "That's exactly why I recommended you for the Medal of Honor, Marcus. Most people would want revenge. You want redemption." As they walked toward the door, the general put his hand on Marcus's shoulder. "You know, I've got some connections in this city. Good companies looking for experienced managers, men with your leadership background. Interested?" Marcus felt something he hadn't experienced in months. Hope. Yes, sir. Very interested. They stepped out into the afternoon sun, leaving behind a store full of people who had just witnessed something extraordinary. Tyler Williams stood behind his counter, staring at the business card still in his shaking hands, understanding for the first time that heroes don't always look like heroes. And in that small convenience store, in a moment that lasted less than 30 minutes, everyone learned that respect isn't something you earn with fancy clothes or impressive titles. Sometimes respect is carried in the quiet dignity of a man who served his country, asked for nothing in return, and still chose kindness over anger when the world treated him poorly. Marcus Thompson got his water and his aspirin that day, but, more importantly, he got his dignity back, his hope restored, and a reminder that his service, his sacrifice, still mattered. Sometimes it takes a 4-star general to remind the world that heroes walk among us every day, wearing ordinary clothes and carrying extraordinary stories, and sometimes that reminder changes everything.